Okay, so yesterday I went and saw Avatar a day early before its official release, I guess, is considered the 19th. So it was the 18th, obviously Thursday. And so I saw it yesterday, and I was a little disappointed. I had a similar reaction to it, to the second movie, that it feels like it's a bit unoriginal and playing it safe and rehashing stuff from the previous movie. So I'll tell you the pros and cons and give you my rating at the end here. So the pros are the new chick that they introduced. I'm not good with the characters' names because they're a little bit hard to pronounce and stuff, but the fire chick, the fire queen, was very good, very entertaining. She was a good new villain, a good new introduction, right? That was definitely needed. So that's a plus point. Another plus, her performance is good, the character is good, there's a good sadistic kind of quality that the Fire Clan has, right? That is kind of entertaining to watch, some of their rituals and traditions and so forth, right? It's a good use of that whole introducing of a new enemy, right? Also, obviously, the effects are still pretty good. The action is good. I mean, again, for the time that we're in now, it's maybe not as mind-blowing or as impressive as the original was in 2009, but the effects and the sound and everything like that is still very good. And then the final thing that I'll praise is some of the character dynamics, right? You have Quaritch kind of coming around a soft spot to Spider that we kind of saw foreshadowed in the last movie. Some of that is kind of good. You obviously have Jake trying to still give hope to his family, and him and his wife are grieving over the loss of their son in the last movie. So there's some good scenes to do with all of that. The bad, though, right, that does sort of outshadow it a little bit, not saying the movie is bad, but the Fire Clan, despite me praising the villain and the leader, the way it's presented is too much like a bunch of vagabonds and just like this scattered little tribe. It doesn't feel to have the infrastructure that it needs to, because see, they're a villain that's being portrayed on par with the humans, or like, oh, they're such a big problem and such a big threat, as they should be. But I was picturing like they should be up in a big castle in the volcano and something like that, but instead it seems like a dingy little couple huts, and just the way they're presented isn't worthy of the way they're treated as a threat, right? They should have been presented in a bit more badass, a bit more of a regal way, a bit more infrastructure, like a whole society. It really just looks like a wandering tribe with like 20, 30 people in it, right? That's kind of a weird way how they present it. I'll also criticize the action in that same way, that it's like a guerrilla warfare type thing that they keep trying to go for in all these movies, but it bogs down what should be a worldwide, planet-wide conflict into, oh, it's just a couple soldiers in Quaritch versus Jake and a couple of his family, and, the Sea tribe is still helping. Like, it's condensed to a small level, even at the end of the movie, right, in a fight that's very similar to The Way of Water's ending, because it takes place in the water. That'll be my next criticism, is like, it seems like it's taking, the fight's taking place all in one place. And that might seem okay, like for the sake of the audience, but something about the scale of that doesn't quite feel right every time. The entire planet Earth and humans are trying to wage this war. And so this notion that this battle would be taking place in just one spot, or that there wouldn't be conflict going on all the time in various parts of the world, they should present that more. Like, oh, humans are also all over the place in other parts of the world doing attacks on a smaller level, right? We should hear more about that, or see like little flashes of that here and there. It shouldn't just be like, oh, look, it's Jake versus Quaritch and a couple soldiers. Like, that condenses down the conflict that is like a worldwide, interplanetary conflict going on, right? And just doesn't quite respect the scale of what it actually should feel like. So that's a bit of a conflict. And then again, on the Fire Tribe issue again, not only are they portrayed a little bit nomadic and not really that impressive or infrastructure heavy, but also the imagery and the setting. As I just said, we see more water, even though it's all fire and ash. We see more water in this movie than we do fire. We see more of the Water Tribe, Water Clan, which Jake and family are still with them most of the movie. So we see that more in this movie. And you know what that actually indicates in a negative real world sense? You know that these movies were shot together, right? Because they know they're making so many of them. They shot probably 2 and 3 together. And so they just recycled and reused some of the same images and some of the same effects and some of the same setting and sets and stuff. They reused a lot of that from part 2 into part 3. So they didn't successfully transition. The movie should have taken place in the mountains and in the volcano and in the fire area, and using like fire animals, and the same way that the second movie introduced the water kind of as a fresh environment from the forest in the first movie. this should have done the same thing in the mountains and the fire region, but it didn't do that, right? There's very little of that. Most of the action and most of the story takes place, again, in the water, underwater. It's recycling and rehashing some of the same things that we saw in the last movie. So it's kind of the Way of Water 1.5. It doesn't adequately live up to the title in that way. So my main criticism would then come down to, again, it's unoriginal. It rehashes not only the story again of the first two, like, okay, we're just fighting the humans again, which I criticized in the second movie. It gets away with it a little more here because you have the fire tribe being introduced. I appreciate that. But I almost would have done it like this. I would have had it be where the fire tribe is the main villain and the humans are kind of recovering from the second movie, so they're not even the main villain or a big deal anymore, right, in this one. Like, almost forget about the humans. It's all about the fire tribe, and then they're so threatening, in fact, that now Quaritch has a change of heart and joins sides with Jake to try to take down the fire tribe. So the human presence would have been more, this is just my hypothetical, what would have made it better. Not only are the humans not the threat in this movie, I thought they would have become the ally, and in a small way, like Quaritch maybe, and he goes and he helps take down the fire chick because she's such a threat. So again, the Fire Queen is good, but the criticisms are that the fire tribe should have been built up more, shown more infrastructure, a big castle on the volcano like Mount Doom or something. And then it should have also been that the humans shouldn't have been imposed as much of a threat. That's getting really old. Some of the same conversations over and over. One person rebels and doesn't want to destroy the environment. You know, the other ones are being cynical and corporate and all of this. So, right, we've seen those conversations. They keep rehashing. This feels so rehashed and unoriginal, like they're playing it safe and they're trying to hold back some of their better ideas because they know they're making more movies in the series. So that I take issue with, because it's not bad, but the same way I felt with the second movie is it's playing it super safe, right? The writing doesn't go anywhere too creative, aside from, again, with the fire chick does have some interesting behaviors and sadistic kind of traditions and rituals and stuff. So she's really the standout. Good performance, good character, but everything else is a bit repetitive. Again, we don't need to see Quaritch again for the third movie. Like, he's not that great of a character that you have to do that. There's some good dynamic with him and Spider, but, you know, sort of the father-son thing that we saw being foreshadowed, that wasn't too bad, right? But it doesn't really go even where I exactly thought it would, and it's just kind of predictable, and it's just kind of unoriginal, right? And it rehashes the second movie way too much, where, again, I accused the second movie of rehashing the first and said that, oh, you know, it's the same thing. It's just taking place by the water instead of in the forest, right? But you're still fighting the humans again, and, oh, they might look like Navi this time, some of them, like Quaritch and his crew, but they're the same, right? So you have the same conflict, same enemy, same humans, right? Same villain, right? So the only difference is the setting. Now, this one is almost like the opposite, where there's a new villain, but now it's the same setting as the second movie. You see the water a lot. You have the final battle is a real disappointment because it takes place on the water with the battleship and with the whales helping and all. I'm not good with all the names of these things, but whatever, with the whales helping and the sea creatures helping, and it's like, it almost felt like exactly, some of the shots could have been taken directly from the second movie. It felt almost exactly like the final battle in the second movie, so they should not have done that. At least that battle should have taken place, again, in the volcano. Like, how couldn't we come up with an excuse to go there, and in that sort of fiery, mountainous region would have been much more fitting. For them to just recycle the water shows you a real-life reason, which people might not realize. Oh, the movies were shot together, so we just did this twice, right? I swear, some of the shots could be recycled from the second movie and you wouldn't even remember. People wouldn't even notice. But yeah, that overuse of the water environment, it's not called Water and Ash. It's not called The Way of Water 1.5, even though it feels like that. So the use of the water tribe, the use of the water area was a mistake, right? They should not have done that so much. It doesn't live up to the title that way. And it obviously doesn't use enough of that imagery. It's mainly, the same water kind of imagery where the final battle even takes place on the boat and everything like that. And so, yeah, my ultimate rating would be a 3-star, same as the last one, so it was a bit of a disappointment. Maybe 3.5, like I wanted to distinguish it and say it's a little better than the second one, but I'll just leave it at 3 because, again, it is a disappointment because they're playing it safe. It is unoriginal. It is, just recycling stuff from the first and second movie. Again, the same villain in part, at least. Quaritch is still there. And then you have the humans doing the same thing over and over, right? Having the same conversations, just being sort of bland and boring, and even worse now, because how many times can they make the same mistake and get fucked over so many times? Like, their reactions are starting to feel routine. Like, oh, look, another building blew up, another 100 soldiers died. And, like, they're almost saying it like that. They're almost bored themselves. Like, oh, yeah, it's no big deal. Shouldn't you be a little upset about this? Shouldn't you be... And when they finally have hostages, like, oh, if they take some of the main characters hostage, at what point are you just going to kill them? Right, at what point are you not going to stall it out? And they turn it into, like, some big red carpet event, like, oh, look, we're going to make it a spectacle, right, instead of just finishing off. Like, that would have made sense in the first movie, but now it's been far enough where, like, okay, just at some point, just kill the characters if you have them in your sights, but they just keep stalling it, keep dragging it out. It starts to feel like plot armor, and so, again, I think that 3-star rating is fair. And then I think a couple little jokes I made, which I guess they don't spoil anything. In my other analysis, I did like an hour-long analysis immediately after I had seen it. But basically, there were 2 like little jokes that I forgot to mention in there. So one of them is like, or maybe I did, but one of them is like, again, towards the end of the movie, they're on the battleship and all this. And so it's like, one of the characters could have said, oh, I heard you like fire, to the Fire Queen chick, because, oh, I heard you like fire because they're burning up the battleship, just like in the second movie. But it's like, oh, like, use it against her in more of a, whatever, ironic karma sort of way, where she kind of burns up or something, but that doesn't happen. Not to spoil anything, but just that exact kind of imagery and payback doesn't happen. So yeah, like, I heard you like fire, like, throw it back in her face kind of thing. And then the other one is that Kiri and Spider have a bit of a thing going on. Like, you could tell Kiri likes Spider, so... on one hand, that's weird because, again, we're voiced by Sigourney Weaver, so you're grooming like a little boy, even though you're like a 60, 70-year-old woman that Sigourney Weaver is. But obviously, that's just the voice acting perspective, but also it's the fact, and and they overuse that a little bit as a plot device. Like, she's like the plot device character. She can use her power whenever she wants to just make whatever the plot needs to happen. And she's like a walking plot device. And Spider kind of is, too, in a different way, that he just constantly gets taken hostage and he gets turned into even more of a plot device for, like, why not only Quaritch would want him, but the humans would want him as well. And so, right, just like a lot of the characters are there just to be constantly taken hostage and not actually do anything, right? Like, if he just wasn't there, right, that's what a lot of the children were introduced to do, just to be put in danger, just so they can be rescued. But no, it's the joke was Kiri keeps calling him a little monkey. So even when he's like, he's almost dying in one scene, and still you call him a little monkey. Like, I just was kind of cracking up at that moment because, like, she says it affectionately, but like, you can't even stop calling him that even in a moment where he's nearly dead.